Thank you, Kjetil, for joining us. I'm going to start out with one question. What's the weather like today?
Wow, it's clear sky and it's a lot of snow on the mountains. Started getting green outside the factory, and the fjord is bright and blue, and not a wave on the fjord. This is perfect time this in the springtime.
Now, the fjord is pretty important to you.
Yeah, it is.
How often do you get out there?
As much as I can during the summertime, because in the wintertime it might be ice on it, but in the summer I can take the boat to the job, and I really like to start the morning in the boat. So it's 15 minutes with the boat, and then I get direct to the factory.
I did not know that. You can take your boat directly to your factory.
My house is by the fjord, and also the factory is by the fjord, and there's a harbor just behind the factory, so it's suitable.
That's the coolest commute of any Dscooper I've heard. I feel like, most of us sit in traffic. You're on a fjord. I need to live near a fjord, I feel like.
It's a lot of space. It's a lot of space. There's a lot of space here. Just come.
Okay. Now, for those of you that are watching, you may not know where Kjetil is. And I'm going to not say the name correctly, so I'm going to make you say it.
I'm in Gaupne, in Luster, in Sogn, in Norway. So this is the area, Sogn, and it's in the fjord area on the western side of Norway.
And this will next beg the question, okay, you have a thriving label printing company, and you are, what I would say, is in the middle of nowhere. How did you wind up being there?
The main reason is I grew up here. So when I was a kid, I was playing around here in a small village. And I moved to the big cities, as most of the people do when they get youngsters and they would like some more action. They go into the big cities. But when you get kids and you start growing, you're getting more gray in your hair, and you're getting older, you maybe would like to relax a little bit more. And so I moved back when I was 40, and I took my family and my kids back here, and I started Etikett in the garage just up on the road.
Okay, and what made you get into printing? Were you always in printing?
Yeah, more or less. I was an engineer, but I was suddenly in a print shop, and I started working for a summer job first. And the summer job lasted for 4 years in a print shop. And so that was the beginning back in the 90s. And later on, I was a sales rep for a subsidiary to the graphic industry. So I sold machinery and subsidiary to the printing industry. So that's the reason why I ended up in labels, is occasionally because there was my background was in screen printing, offset, letterpress, flexo, and I knew this kind of techniques before I started Etikett, which is pure digital.
That's amazing. And okay, so how do you get clients in the middle of nowhere? Again, I'm going to keep saying the middle of nowhere because it's a little bit of a hike.
Yeah, there's 1,000 people in this village where the factory is, and where I live is 300 people. So it's really small places and in the middle of nowhere. It's more famous of cruise ships and tourists in the summer season, but it's completely quiet in the winter season. No, it's the clients is all over Norway, and my first years when I started in 2008, I was really driving around in Norway and knocking doors. That's how I started to build my business. So I was knocking doors during the week, and I printed labels in the weekend. So more or less like that. So it took me maybe, could be a 1 day or 2 days trip just to get to one customer in the beginning, and that's how it is. And really working hard to get to the customers. And now I have salespeople, of course, in Oslo, and I still do some. I still visit big clients. But maybe it's a flight away or it's a long car drive, 5 hours, 6 hours in car, and I can meet the clients. So they're all over really, and so Norway is a bit special because they make it worth making a factory in a place like this, and the government also support a little bit to make business in small places. So not everybody is going into the big cities. So Norway is a bit special on that also.
It's been you must have had some key moments to go from a garage to the building that we've seen, photos of and videos of. It's a wonderful facility you have in your town, both inside and out. Inside, you have a lot of young people, it seems, working for you. Can you talk about, and that's something that I think everyone around the globe is kind of struggling with, to find talent, etc. How have you grown your team? Just sort of an internal question. How have you found the people to work for you? And it seems like you have a lot of fresh energy there.
Yeah, I do. I think the facility is a part of it, and I got a quite cool culture in the factory. It's more or less a society of music, and that's one of the driving goals, what we do or what we play in the factory. So I think the younger people like that energy in the facility and in the factory. And so I really don't search for people. There are more people that like to work in this facility and this factory. I think people will see it when they come over here also, because it's a good space, it's a good view, and there's a lot of air in the factory. So there's something they really like about it. And not all young people move out. Some are back, and an HP Indigo and a finishing line from ABG, you need a training on the spot to learn to play with it. So it's not really the school you need. You need the practice in the factory. So I'm happy to manage to hold these people here, and they're great working staff.
Half the time I talk to Chris, he's just listening to music in the background, like rocking out. Like, we got to ask, what music are you playing? What's spinning at Digital Etiquette these days?
No, it is rock and roll mostly, and AC/DC, the Australian hard rock band AC/DC is some kind of what do you call it? It's you can see it in the factory really, because there are posters on the wall and everything. So what I say always is that the bass and the drums have to play together, and it's the same thing with the machinery or the people in the factory. They need to play together, and the guitar player have to play with the bass, and so on and so on. You build up a factory like you build a band. You need to play together, make it sound good. And AC/DC, I've always been there since I was a kid, really, and I like that kind of music, and that's. You can hear it in the factory also. Often on Fridays, especially on Fridays after lunch, before the weekend. Then I play a loud AC/DC in the factory.
Gotcha. So you're pumping out labels as Back in Black is on in the background. It's probably an energizing thing for everyone there.
Yeah, and the rhythm from a finishing line and the die cutting is can compare to the rhythm of the music. So it's good.
Okay, well, since we're off on this. Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
The gold question. No, it is Bon Scott. It is Bon Scott. It's the 70s.
Yes, that's it. Right answer. There. I was going to tell you there's no wrong answer. No, that was the right answer.
So the mascot on the wall. I put Angus Young up in the wall in the garage back in 2008. He's 3 meters high, and that's from early 70s. Angus Young, the guitar player. And so I asked everyone who would like to work with me, who is this? And if they didn't know, they have to walk out again. So it was a filter.
Nice.
Besides the music, I have one question about your building. What are your favorite? So we've taken a peek inside. Just you shared a video with us before, but for the viewers who haven't seen it yet, what are some of your favorite things about the space? Like if you just think about from the front door walking around, what are some of the things on the wall or hanging up or in the building that when you pass it, you're like, I'm really glad I work here?
Yeah. First of all, it is a lot of air around you. The roof is very high up. I think that's important when you get into a building anyway. But most of the things that are around here got a story to tell. So it's not just put on the wall for any reason. It got a story. I have 2 guitars here. I have now 3 guitars on the wall. We have a cable car in the front, and everything have got a story from my childhood and up to where I am today, more or less. And I can connect it to some special events and episodes of my life, or things happen. So it's skateboards, and it's a surfboard. It's a lot of things that breaking up this industrial thinking, because most of the factories you walk into, many of them are gray, really concrete or metal, and it's gray and it's cold. I think if you can, it's quite easy to break it up a little bit with elements that don't fit in really in a factory. It makes you think about something else than really only working. So I think it's also good for the people, not only me, but it's also for the people who work here.
Now, your building is pretty special in a lot of ways, but one of the things that you put into it was a lot of thought on sustainability. Can you talk a little bit about your approach in constructing that building to be sustainable?
Yeah, it's made 100% of wood. There's no plastic, no metal in the walls. So the building is breathing, more or less. And it's carbon neutral because it's binding up carbon. It's CO2. It doesn't deliver any CO2 from this building compared to concrete or metal. And it makes you also, it's warm in the winter and it's quite cold in the summer. Because wood have this ways to be. So when you get into a wooden, it's like you come into any kind of house which is made of wood. It's a different kind of sense when you get into it. You can even almost smell it, like you come into some kind of a cabin on the mountain or something like that feeling. And that's how we also aim to do here, and that is also binding carbon is also very positive. So since everything is of wood,
and you have you're very committed to sustainability, and you're trying a lot of different things. I know your solar array is a big deal. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other activities that you're doing around sustainability?
There's a ongoing process all the time, really, because it never stops. We have UN goals that we're working to. We are working to ESG analysis, and we try to every day make something better for waste and handling waste, sorting waste, delivering waste, and how we can make fractions that can be returned again, so we can reuse it somehow. That's the main reason, because I think the main problem now is, I think we have to buy these quotes for CO2, since we are now we are still decreasing our footprint, and I think the biggest part of our CO2 footprint is waste and the waste material. So what we are aiming for now is to maybe put a pressure more to the suppliers of materials. Maybe they can take it in return, and work with our suppliers in all ways that they can help us to deliver the waste back, and we can get it back in materials or anything else. So I think we'll never stop, but we are quite strong on splitting all the fractions in the factory. So it means we've split everything from plastic to metals to glass to electrician things, and everything is put in containers, and everything is being delivered directly to the state, which have an own place where they can receive it and take care of it in a proper way.
Yeah, I do have a question. This might have to do with sustainability, and it might not. But I am interested in the labels business. I wanted to ask a question before we maybe talk a little bit more about sustainability and the upcoming event that you're hosting for Dscoop. What is the label market like in Norway? And the digital technology that you have with HP Indigo, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the benefit of being able to offer custom labels and what that market is like where you are.
That is quite easy for me to say to you, you are living in big countries, a lot of people around you, and big volumes, big customers. Norway is still like I would say the country Norway is like a small village in the US, the whole country. So it means the market is more or less small also. It's a lot of small brands. It's a lot of local food, local breweries, a lot of small producers all over. And that was my aiming when I started in the garage also. Now we also have big customers, of course, but still we have a focus on the main market, which is small to medium runs. So that is, and it's still growing. People are more aware of local produced food, like they are really all over now. And there's also a sustainable way of thinking. So you shouldn't import a lot of things from Africa or from long distance, and you use more local brands and local food, local drinks, and so on. So we can see that the market is still growing in this way. I think that was the question, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was, and I'm wondering, among the people who are buying digital labels, do any of them appreciate your sustainability approach? Does it ever come up as a reason they're doing business with you? Or is it more just like sort of a passionate pursuit of yours personally? How much of your sustainability mission is sort of your heart versus what it might do for your business, I guess?
Good question. I think it's more for now and from the beginning and until up now, it's still my personal way of being and living and making the factory. But I think it has to be in the future also a demand from the customer. So far, the customer really don't take that in consideration when he's choosing his supplier at this time. But if you want a loan in the bank has already started to have questions regarding if you're taking care of the sustainability way of thinking, or what are you doing in the ESG analysis and so on. So the finance and the bank have already asked us now, but the customer haven't yet. But I think, and I know for sure they will do in the future.
Well, that's a good segue into you're hosting a pretty cool event for Dscoop coming up. What are you going to share with everyone?
Oh, I think I will share everything they would like to know about this company and our style of doing it. We have no hidden secrets. We have nothing to hide. We are quite proud of what we have here. So I would love to show them. The surroundings is one thing that many people are not seen before, for sure. And I hope also that the factory here and also my neighbor NTP would be very good activities for people. So we would like to share what we can do so it make it interesting for them to be here.
What do you want to talk about with your colleagues? Like what are you interested in discussing with them, like what they're doing that could help you too?
I think it's important for me to know about trends, where the trends are coming, because since we are up north and in a small country, I prefer to talk where is the train going and where is the wind blowing, really, because the trends comes from maybe comes from the US, and it comes also from Southern Europe. And how is it moving? How is the market moving? What is important for them? It could be important for me in 10 years or 5 years. So it's more like sharing the society and how they are handling their waste. What do they think about the solar cells and wind energy and so on? So it's a lot of things, but it's more or less trends inside this the same industry.
Now, you had mentioned earlier about local food, local drink. Do you think that's a trend? Not only in Norway? Or have you seen that in other countries?
I think that's a trend in other countries. I even been to a very nice Michelin restaurant in New York. And it was quite fun to hear the waiter told me about the sheep coming from a farm just outside New York. It means it's locally produced just outside New York, which is the Big Apple, really. And I think that's it's more or less it's more and more a trend. If you go to nice places now in Europe also, they're proud of the food and the beer or the wine coming locally and is produced close by the customer or the end user of it.
Awesome. All right. Well, Kjetil, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Same to you. Thank you.